mynews.studio.
In the Amazon rainforest, solar panels are now more prominent than oil rigs. Over 130 nations have pledged to triple renewable energy. It's a major headline, but will these promises actually translate into power on the ground?
Today is November 14th, 2025. Let's dig in. So, more than 130 countries have committed to tripling global renewable energy capacity and doubling energy efficiency by 2030. That sounds like a significant move, but what does that actually involve?
Well, the numbers are striking. We're talking about moving from about 3,400 gigawatts of renewables in 2022 to more than 11,000 gigawatts by 2030. That's a huge increase. Brazil stands out here. 90% of its electricity already comes from clean sources. President Lula even announced that during the first half of 2025, renewables overtook coal globally for the first time. But why is Brazil so central to this shift?
Brazil's influence goes beyond its own electricity grid. It's also pushing the so-called Belém Commitment, which aims to quadruple sustainable fuels by 2035. They're trying to share their approach internationally, right?
That's right. The Belém Commitment, sometimes called Belém 4X, has support from 19 countries, stretching from Armenia to Zambia. The main idea is to share technology and boost sustainable fuel use, not just in wealthier countries, but across the board. Still, making a pledge is only the beginning. How are countries being kept accountable for actually following through?
Accountability mainly comes through the Global Renewables and Energy Efficiency Pledge. It's a formal agreement 133 countries have signed on. Progress is tracked by the UNFCCC, and national climate plans, or NDCs, are updated to reflect these targets. Nearly 90% of these plans now mention renewables. But is that enough to make a difference?
It's definitely a move forward, but not a guaranteed outcome. The International Renewable Energy Agency, or IRENA, monitors progress against the 1.5-degree climate target. They put out regular reports, benchmark countries, and offer technical guidance. There's also a coalition, COP28, IRENA, and the Global Renewables Alliance, recommending policy changes and tracking results. But if a country doesn't meet its target, is there any real penalty?
There's no real penalty. The process is transparent. Everyone can see the numbers, but it's not legally binding. Take OECD countries. They're expected to miss their tripling target by about a third. The real pressure comes from public opinion and other governments, not from actual enforcement. Does that make the system too weak to matter?
That reveals a significant gap. Ultimately, it comes down to political will and peer pressure, rather than consequences. But here's a big question. How are developing nations supposed to expand renewables when the investment gap is so wide?
The UN reports that global clean energy investment reached $2 trillion, which is $800 billion more than fossil fuel investment. But that money isn't spread evenly. Around 660 million people still rely on kerosene lamps or diesel for power, and about 200 million children attend schools without electricity. The global roadmap calls for universal access to clean energy by 2030. Is that even achievable?
It's an ambitious goal. The approach is to align investment, technology, and policy. Efforts like the Belém Commitment aim to share expertise and technology with the countries that need it most. Even so, to hit the tripling target, some regions need to pick up the pace. For example, OECD countries face a 2-terawatt gap. Where will that funding come from?
That's the core issue. The push is for more international financing, technology transfers, and an end to fossil fuel subsidies. President Lula has called for easier access to funding and tech, especially for countries in the global south. The UN Secretary General supports this too, emphasizing a fair transition for workers and communities. But will private investors really step in at the scale needed?
That's a big unknown. Private investment can move quickly, but only when policies and incentives are well aligned. The next few years will reveal whether this is just another round of promises or the start of real, systemic change? Will we finally see global cooperation break the cycle of slow progress? Or are we looking at more of the same?
That's what everyone will be watching. If these pledges turn into actual action, global energy systems could be transformed by 2030. If not, we risk missing the chance to avoid the worst effects of climate change.
Solar panels in the Amazon, new alliances, and historic pledges. This moment could mark a turning point, or it could just be another chapter of talk. Thanks for joining us as we unpack the facts and challenges behind the global renewable energy shift.
Today, we covered the scope of the pledge, how progress is measured, the financial obstacles, and what's at stake for every country. The next decade will show whether this is real change or just more of the same.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.